And welcome in, everybody, to Scout's Eye on Football. A little tardy today, trying to get off the phone. It is a busy time. Folks, I am in full draft meeting mode, so I'm going to make sure that I silence the phone here. We're going to be talking a lot about the draft. We're going to take it in a few different directions. I've got to make a note here on a couple of questions that have been sent in. Reminder, we're interactive, so if you've got a question, comment, join us in the chat room, and we'll be talking. Listen, anything you really want to talk about, my mind is focused, obviously, a lot on the draft as we're in the stretch run. Update on what's going on at LandryFootball.com. If you've not joined, gosh, I don't know. We'd really appreciate your help kind of spreading the word to your friends that are football fans. We think it's a great deal. Got a scouting season offer. It's less than $10 a month. It's even cheaper than that if you look at what we all offer. If you take advantage of the year membership. But basically what we do is we have a situation where we provide a lot of inside information, analysis on the college and pro game, and we run concurrent with the season. So obviously during the season, we're breaking down the games. As the season gets finished, we deal with all things, coaching searches, recruiting, free agency, evaluating rosters of the past season, and getting ready for free agency, the free agency process, the draft process. And of course, we're deep into that. Up on LandryFootball.com, we've got everything that you would want. We've got the horizontal board, the best overall players in the draft. We've got the position boards, which we call the vertical board. And you see where the breakoff points are. We have the scouting reports on every player, whether it's the first pick in the draft or somebody that's going to sign as an undrafted free agent for your team. We've got it for you. You check it all out at LandryFootball.com. It's a great opportunity to become involved. Working right now on, and we'll have in the ensuing few days, the week, we're going to have on the clock previews inside the draft room, all 32 teams. Updated needs, some potential targets, and a lot of different things that take you inside that draft room. So absolutely want to thank you for that. Also want to bring some news, and I see Fantasy Football 1-on-1 has joined us. I want to thank you. It's not that I hadn't thought of it, but you put the bug in my ear. Fantasy Football 101 brought up something last night. I thought about it as I got done. He wanted us to do a draft show. And so I'm here to announce, here's the plan. First of all, starting next week, starting Monday, I make sure I got the calendar dates correct so you know. So we are, what is the date today? It's the 14th. I know we're 2 weeks away from the draft starting tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. So starting Monday the 19th at 4 p.m. Central Time, we're going to have about an hour show, 4 to 5 Central, 5 to 6 Eastern, every day, Monday through Friday, next week and the following week, which is draft week, the week before the draft and the week of the draft. Give you the latest information on the draft. So it'll be the Scout's Eye on college and pro football. And we're going to be talking about the draft. We'll be taking your questions. We're going to go through team needs and scenarios. We're going to get through a lot of that the next 2 weeks. Also, and you need to really thank Fantasy Football 101 for this, because I am so much in the minutia of my meetings and everything. When he brought it up last night, I thought, I don't know if I can do that. I thought about it more. Yes, mark it down. We now have you an alternative. Draft night, Thursday night. Draft night, Friday night and Saturday. I am going to do a live show. I'll be doing it solo. I'm not going to ask anybody else to be on as long as that is. Now, you have to understand kind of what this show's going to be about. As the draft is going on, I'm going to take you through the draft. Pick by pick, I'm going to indulge you and ask you for a little patience. So doing a, 5-6 hour show solo with no commercials, you're basically going to get a peek into kind of what I'm involved in doing on draft day virtually. So there'll be pauses during the show. I'm going to have to read my tweet messages and email messages. So I may have to say, hold on, folks. I need to deal with this. And I'm there. I'm not going away. And here's what we're going to provide for you. We'll be able to give you probably the picks in some cases before they happen, at least some of the discussions, because what will normally happen on draft night is I will get texts, I will get emails. Thank God for texts. I can tell you that if it wasn't for texts and emails, it used to be just a bunch of calls. I try to keep off of that, or I wouldn't be able to do this because it just would be, it just wouldn't work. But be able to say, hold on, I'm going to be able to tell you, hey, look, this is kind of what's going on. So we'll see. We're going to have that for you. And look, I'm going to do it. And it's going to be informal. It's going to be us. It's going to be family. So as there's a break, I may have to get up and go to the little boys' room. You just, it'll be there. The camera will be here. Fine. You just have to understand. I'm going to keep it going. So we're going to do that. I think technologically, as long as things will work. So I actually sent a text to Don over at Twitch, part of the Amazon Twitch family. So that's the plan. So you're going to have me. As long as my voice will hold up, we'll do that. Now, I also will try to take questions and all. Understand that's going to be chaotic, particularly as the draft goes into Friday and Saturday. Picks are coming. I don't know that it's probably not the best time to be able to answer a million questions because I'm going to be reacting live. When we do the show here, it's more analyzing. It is more going into answering questions. So don't be offended or upset if you can't get to all your questions on that night because it's going to be more about what's happening. At that point, you'll know what I think about the players. I will react to it, and we'll have time after the fact to be able to react to it. So it'll be, look, we'll take it as we go. It'll be fun. I got to tell you, as I'm doing this show here live, many of you know I'm in Baton Rouge. It could be midnight. I am looking out my window, and when I tell you it is dark, I mean, as I look through the trees, you cannot see the sky. It is that dark. So if I get knocked off the air, you know why. We've had really bad weather the last couple of days. So anyway, that's the news. Spread it. Oh, you'll be able to, how do you catch that? If you're listening and watching right now, you catch it. If you're listening to this in podcast form, this is not going to be something that we're going to put up as a podcast. It's going to be a 5, 6, 7 hour show, and it's going to be all stuff that happened already. So it's not going to be put as a podcast form. You'll want to catch this live, and you want to spread it around. Help me spread it on social media. Set it up. How do you get it? Very simply. You can catch it on Twitch TV. That's the best way. Go to LandryFootball.com. Click on Follow Chris on Twitch. You can get it there. Also, like we do on this show, have it simultaneously on Facebook and YouTube Live. So if you like consuming it there, you absolutely can do it. So get the bookwork out of the way. So we got a couple of questions to get to in the chat room in here. So appreciate Fantasy Football One-on-One deserves the credit for that. Thanks to you, Kev. Thank you for cheering us 100 bits, and we appreciate that. We're doing. So Fantasy says, I get to hear you go deep and give us all the golden nuggets. We'll see what we can do there. Be interesting to learn why teams may see a player differently from your board in real time. Yeah, and sometimes, Kev, that takes a little time to, in real time, I may have a reaction. Wow. When I have more time to think about it and even investigate it by talking with them, while I may not agree, I can maybe provide a little bit more of that. So it's not like, this will be the be all the end all, but what's going to be great about it, it's going to be live reaction. And, it's, listen, it's great. It's going to be a one-man show for me. So we're not going to be able to push a bunch of buttons and show you a lot of video and stuff like that. But we'll be able to react to it. And if you want to get the closest feel to what it's like in the draft room, I can virtually do that. So, you can listen to as Rich Coates says, it's an alternative where you don't have to listen to the talking heads. And look, those they provide a great service and it's fine. But yes, it'll give you an alternative. So if you could, please help spread the word. That's how we grow. And I'm looking at this as a great launch point because, as you know, we talk football all year round, all the time, regardless who you're a fan of. We got that for you. So we're really excited about that. And I'm going to start to kind of promote that myself, but we really could use your help in doing so. So as we are dealing with teams every day now, the virtual meetings revolving more around the couple of things. No, teams they're not done with their boards. And I say that all the time. And I'm gonna phrase it again to people understand. No, this is not like they're learning more about these players. They've at this point with the recheck physical, with the medical physicals, we called them rechecks on this past weekend. They've got all the latest medical data. Obviously, they've looked at all the film. What is not done completely is getting into that room and sitting there and arguing. I don't mean that, having discussions. You got a cluster of 5 receivers, 6 linebackers in kind of that 4th round area. What order do you have him? I think this guy's too low. I think he should be in the next. I think he should be. This should be you go through all that. That's why you do it. Remember, set your draft board up correctly. Draft board dictates to you. That's what you're looking for. Folks, I'm going to tell you, the weather is, if we do go off the air, it's looking ominous here. That's what's being done now. So the final pieces of the puzzle, this week, next week, usually the week of the draft. I always like to, by the weekend prior to the draft, always like to have all the position boards done and at least be 50% through the top 150 board, which really only came down to about 100. When you do that, then it gives you time. I wanted to spend extra time, believe it or not, prior to the draft, making sure, debating it, but there's a whole lot of guys that with a priority free agent grade. You hear me say this. So you're saying, well, why the hell are you doing this, Chris? I don't get this. Haven't you said you will be able to draft and sign your free agents off your draftable board? However, with the 4.9 grades, I want to make sure that they're in the right order. If I got 20 receivers with 4.9 grades, I want to go through painstaking detail to make sure they're in the right order. Why? If we need to sign 1 or 2 guys at each position and our board is picked clean, we need to know who we're going to approach first. It becomes a recruiting board, and it's got to be in the right order. I don't want to be on draft night to say, all right, do we want to go this guy? No, we want to know in this order. And then it is a little bit of, you can't get this guy. The second guy commits, you take him. But I like to spend more time on that. But that last week is, and we're getting close to that time, and I'm starting to get a little bit, as I'm participating in some of these meetings, in some of the breaks, there's a little bit of, so what do you think so-and-so is going to do? What do you think this team's going to do? And that it's a lot of fishing for information to trying to anticipate who might be there, how things might play out, what options does it bring? So we're getting a lot of that. See, Tony joined us. Hope, Tony, we'll remind folks, and if somebody could help me remind it. Tony, I hope you got wind of it. Hope you were here at the beginning when we talked about we're going to be live bringing the draft for you. Tony's a Browns fan. Says, morning, Chris. Assuming the Browns sign Clowney, wondering if he'd be productive in the Brown system. Yes, I do think he can. I think here's what Jadeveon Clowney is that I think, believe it or not, for all the hype that Jadeveon Clowney got, he's actually underrated. People don't understand what type of player he is. People just assumed he was this great speed rusher. He never was. He was long-levered, strong at the point of attack, that can push the pocket and shorten the corner, and I think he can be productive. You wonder a little bit about age and health to some degree. I think he can be a real weapon for them. This is not a move for the Browns that would have made a lot of sense in previous years when they were kind of building this team. But a veteran presence to put alongside that defensive line, that you don't need 800 snaps a year from a guy like that, can be very productive, particularly in a potential playoff run. So, yeah, I do think, and I think it's going to happen. We've been talking about it and keeping you updated over at LandryFootball.com. And I do think it's going to happen. We'll see. Until it's done, it's not done. But all signs point to it being done. Rich Coates has there ever been a situation where someone you work with leaked information to the media about whom you were going to draft? And if so, how did you handle the problem? I got to tell you, I'll give you the biggest one. And it pissed me off big time. And a lot of it was assumption. Remember that when I give you this story, this was pre-internet, pre-social media. Well, I don't know if it's pre-internet. I can't remember exactly when it's pre-internet. I believe it was pre-internet. I mean, somebody will say, no, it was internet back then. I don't remember it being that. Definitely not social media. But my first, when we got to Houston, it was a really bad roster. Well, it was a roster that had to be torn apart because free agency. And so the roster was in pretty bad shape. It had to be completely rebuilt with the Oilers. It happened to be the same year that Carolina and Jacksonville came in as expansion teams. So you have the worst season. You have a Jacksonville type of year. You get the first pick in the draft, right? Well, as luck would have it, we inherited a team, and I wasn't there for the season, but we go in, and we don't have the first pick. We got the third pick because the two expansion teams get pick 1 and 2. So we're picking third, and there was a lot of connection in the football world that we were going to take Steve Mcnair all along. And a lot of it was a scout. The scout's deceased now, so I don't want to mention his name, but he was very much a self-promoting type person. And he was one of the area scouts. Certainly was not the guy that was going to make the decision. Kind of bragged on Steve Mcnair. A lot of it is, well, Alcorn State, I found this guy. Nobody found him. He was obviously very highly touted, and there are differing opinions on how good of a pro he would be. You've heard me talk about Steve Mcnair before. Steve had a productive career. I knew Steve Mcnair going all the way back to came out of high school. And he was heavily recruited athletically, play safety, running back. He wanted to play quarterback, went to Alcorn State. He did have some initial grade issues in terms of getting the core curriculum. Went to Alcorn State. Obviously, ran an offense where it was wide open and four wides. And again, as I've said before, like Steve, didn't think he was going to be a great player, but I thought he'd be a very productive pro. I thought he'd be a good leader, and I knew he was tough. We called him country strong and country tough. And God rest his soul, it's what he was. But we hadn't really decided definitely that we needed a quarterback. Warren Moon was off with the rest of the team, and we needed a quarterback. We needed a lot of things. But that year, if you remember, Kerry Collins and Steve Mcnair, Tony Saka, actually not Tony, Tony's brother John, number of quarterbacks. Steve was a guy that we targeted, we liked, but we still needed to do our homework and determine that's who we were going to take. It became pretty obvious closer and closer that we were going to take him, but it really wasn't done until we went down and spent an entire day with him in Mississippi, worked him out, put him on the board, and it didn't blow us away. About they blew him away. No, he didn't. We just felt comfortable enough that, okay, we know enough, we're comfortable enough, this is what we're going to do. Well, whether it's just general assumption, but I think it was derived from the area scout that was kind of bragging that we were going to take this guy, that it became a belief that around the league that we were going to take Steve Mcnair. So here's the issue. Once you decide, all right, look, this is what we're going to do, the owner wants to know what you're going to do. And the ultimate decision was going to come down by Floyd Reese. Once you kind of tell the owner what you want to do and you're at third and, this is the guy you're going to take and the owner's excited and nobody's saying anything publicly, but behind the scene, you've created an expectation. Well, we're picking third. If you remember in that draft, Carolina was 1. They traded with Cincinnati. Cincinnati moved up to number 1 and took John Carter, running back out of Penn State. Jacksonville's on the board at 2. Just like there was a lot of thought about, what we might do, we had a strong belief that Jacksonville was going to take Tony Boselli, big offensive tackle out of USC. Tom Coughlin and I joke with him a bunch about this. He gets on the phone and calls us and says that, look, I got Minnesota on the line. I got that, they want to move up here. Basically trying to scare us off. And look, we'll switch spots with you. You can have our spot and get your guy, with a pretty good understanding that our guy was going to be Mcnair, and wanted a third-round pick for it. So we were going to have to give up a third-round pick to move up one spot to make sure to protect that spot so no one else moves ahead. And Floyd was sitting there nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. And the owner's in there. And Bud Adams didn't come around much. And was in there. And this was Saturday morning, and it was 9:30 in the morning. So he was already on his, I think, third glass of Jack Daniels that early, yes. And he was just kind of saying, well, if I don't lose them, if you want them, So it becomes like an embarrassing situation. And I said it just as I said it. Jeff Fisher, to his credit, said it. Don't do it. They're bluffing. There's no way to know that they're bluffing. There's no way to know. It's a gut feeling. You could be right. You could be wrong. It's a gut feeling. It's a gut play call as a coach. It's a gut play call in the draft room. And the theory is I didn't think they wanted to lose Tony Boselli. And, I think that's who they're going to take. And I don't think they're going to move down. I think that they're bluffing. I think they could move down to 3, knowing that we probably weren't going to take Boselli and still get their guy. So they're trying to convince us of that. And I just, look, I was okay with taking Mcnair, but I wasn't like, it's not like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it's not like, I sure as hell didn't want to give up a prime pick. So anyway, long story short, I shouted it out, and Jeff did. And to Floyd's credit, he swallowed hard and said no. He hung up. He didn't hang up on him. He told Tom, no, we'll stay. And 10 seconds later, they hand in the card with Tony Boselli, and we got the guy we got. And then, but, I was a little bit worried because Floyd could be a little squirrely at times, and I thought he's going to bleep this up. He's going to, for fear, and it's going to cost us. My point is that's a situation where I think the leaking of information, just not trying to leak it, but just trying to, oh, yeah, I'm a big shot. I'm going to tell you what we're doing, this and that. A lot of that happens. That's how a lot of this stuff goes out. Now, you multiply that times 100 today with social media and everybody having a say, so you have a lot of that. So that's one of them. There's several others. I'm not going to go into many of them. That was the main one. Rich Coates also said thoughts and report on Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie and Harry Roseman treating Doug Peterson like a baby, and they're considering firing Peterson midseason of last year. Look, here's one of the dangers in today, and I think this is not just today, it's happened in the past, but in today's football more and more, when you have non-football people in GM positions, remember, during the game, those GMs very often has got the ear of the owner. And, the coach is out there working, and very often you don't hear the GM talk about, man, I gave this coach a bad team, or we should have done this and that. It's always, man, we're really good. We got these players. We're not being coached this or that. You have a lot of that going on, and there's definitely the case with little Howie there that doesn't know whether the football's blown or stuff. Always there to try to be there for the soundbite, for the credit, and always looked in the shift lane. I mean, that's let me shift the blame to all the things that don't work. That's how you know who made if it worked, Howie did it. If it didn't work, somebody else's fault. That's you have that a lot. So we know that was a lot of squirrely things going on in Philly last year and how that played out. That's my thoughts. Chris, if you were the Bengals GM sitting at 5, who would you take? Joel, I would take Penei Sewell if he were there. Because I think he's one of the 2 best players in the draft. And I think he's okay, 2 best players in the draft. What does that really mean? That's a comment. It's really not important. I mean, it is, but not the most important. I think Sewell has a chance to be an elite tackle for years to come. The type of which you won't really find very often. I'm not saying he's going to have as good a career, but he bends about as good as anybody since Jonathan Ogden. I take him, no hesitation. It is not a bad pick if they want to take Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase. I think that the Bengals will probably take, if I had to guess, I think the Bengals will take Jamar Chase. Here's the other thing I think going on in Cincinnati, and this is kind of how I read them and visiting with them again. They're not – if they tell me something, I wouldn't repeat it because, A, it's probably something they want me to repeat and not true, or B, it's something that I wouldn't – if I truly believed and they were in confidence, I wouldn't repeat that. Here's my sense, though, and I found that I'm better with sensing things than, quote unquote, let me get information. Because, again, information, sometimes I can't use it. My sense is that they're a little bit gun shy on taking tackles because they took a couple recently and it hadn't quite panned out, that they may go Jamar Chase. That's my sense if he's there. So that's what I would do if I were Cincinnati. If I were Atlanta, I would take Penei Sewell. I think Atlanta is really talking up the quarterback. I'm not saying that they would not take a quarterback or won't take a quarterback. Don't know. But I think it is probable that they stay there and take Sewell. Or if they get great value in a trade, that's what I think Cincinnati's doing. Because those are some of the thoughts there. The way it is looking at the top, and again, it gets very difficult because the whole mock draft process is, well, all right, we'll go through the scenarios of what would happen if this happened. That's what a true mock draft is. That's what we do inside draft rooms is I don't really care about matching a team with it. I mean, it's just who's going to be there when we pick. Where do we need to go to get our guy? Where can we go down and still get our guy? That's what you want to know. It's not about, I got five. Who cares? It's trying to figure out the top. We think we know the top three, but we don't know definitely for certain what's going to happen with San Francisco. That's maybe the first drama to see what they're going to do and what quarterback, and then what Atlanta would do. Would they take a quarterback or trade with somebody would take a quarterback? And then I think Cincinnati, to your question, is going to be interesting because if you think about it, if you're at 5, you're at Cincinnati. Assuming that most everybody, again, you set your board regardless of need, most people would probably have Trevor Lawrence 1 or 2 on their board. You're sitting there at 5, you got a chance to get the best player on the board, best non-quarterback, or the best player, because I think the quarterback's as good as they are, with the exception of Lawrence, probably got the best player on the board. That's a pretty good position to be in, which, by the way, is why you want to have your quarterback. If you get a quarterback, man, it opens up the whole world to you. So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. San Francisco surprises and takes a different guy. People think it's Mac Jones. People think it's one of the other quarterbacks. We'll see. I think it'll be a quarterback. Which one? That'll determine it. And what does Atlanta feel? Look, I think that's, if I'm Atlanta, that's what I'm doing in Cincinnati. Then it becomes interesting with Miami. You got maybe Pitt still there. There's some talk and belief that Atlanta might take Pitts. We'll see. But I do think Pitts, Chase makes a lot of sense for Miami. Then you got Detroit. And that's where it's interesting is where those, because there will be 2 quarterbacks that are slip. It'll be either Fields or Lance, one of those guys. And maybe Mac Jones. It may be both, but it's going to be one of those for certain that's going to quote-unquote slip. Not really slip, but you got all of those guys are not going in the top 4. I mean, you got 5 guys. 5 can't go into 4. So even if it goes quarterback, one of them slipping a little bit. And then who's intrigued enough to come up? That's the game that Atlanta's playing. That's what they're trying to figure out. I don't think Carolina is going to make a move at quarterback because they got Darnold. But what if they love Justin Fields and he slips out of the top 3 or 4? Just saying. Detroit got Goff, but if you really love one of those I just say don't rule it out. Not likely, though. I think Denver, you got to watch. I think you got to watch. I don't know. I don't know that Philly likes anybody. I think they like Zach Wilson a bunch, and not being able to get him was an issue. But I think Denver, Philly, Minnesota, New England, Philly at 12 and Minnesota at 14 and New England at 15 are all interesting spots to watch. I think they're all interesting spots to watch quarterback-wise. Well, when you look at the quarterback position, as I'm verifying the draft order, Giants not going to do that. So those are the teams to look at quarterback-wise. What it does, though, is you look at the top of the board, that creates some intrigue. So the quarterbacks that we discuss, Sewell, Pitts, Chase, then you start getting into some really good players that people are not clamoring over now, not talking about enough now, but are really prime players. You've got, 2 other great receivers. You've got 2 great corners. You've got some good tackles that are not named Sewell. You get into the middle of the round. You've got start to get in some edge rushers that can play. So I think I think it's a really good draft. 24 is a good number. It's usually the number that it's amazing how many times I think over the years, no rhyme or reason, I've had probably more 24 first round grades. I don't know why it's that, because you think, all right, 20 or 25, right? I mean, I'm not looking at a number. You're just grading the player, and then after you're done, you count them up. It's been very often 24. Don't know why that is, but really, really good players. A reminder again that players 5 through 24 all with the same grade for me. So what does that mean? You can go any direction, 5 to 24. So do not just go nuts out there if the 24th player, the 23rd player goes 5th or 6th. Nothing wrong with it. It's not that I think that they're 24th. You got to stack them. And very often I stack them in terms of the priority positions. Quarterbacks go a little top of the list, and running backs say we go a little bit about. Hey, if they just see a guy just a little bit better than I do, that 24th guy becomes the guy they take at 4 or 5. Nothing wrong with that. Not a reach. It's like to tell you the story. Oh, I believe it was 11. Dwight Freeney was taking. Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, what a reach. It's not a reach. That was a 6.5 grade. Could have gone at 11. Could have gone at 6. Could have gone at 18, 19, 20. Anybody think the Colts reach on Dwight Freeney now? Oh, no. That's a forgotten narrative. Well, of course, we're not going to bring that up because, again, don't get caught up into a whole lot. We'll have a lot of fun on that. A reminder again, for those of you that didn't join us at the beginning, big news. We think it's big news. Really excited about it. And we got one of our great followers, Fantasy Football 101, really spurred the idea. Now, the whole, I'm going to do this show Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Central Time. Yes, 4 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday next week, the week prior to the draft, and the following week, the week of the draft, 5 days. We'll bring you the latest on the draft. We'll take different avenues and looks and scouting reports and what have you. Then draft night, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday. We're going to be with you live right here. So if you're catching this on podcast form, make sure that you are listening to us live on that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of the draft. Yeah, I'm going to take you through it myself. We'll do it kind of live interactive. It's not going to be like the polished radio show with commercials or anything. We're going to be there, going to react, going to multitask, going to have to maybe answer some questions privately while I'm on, emails or texts. The work I'm doing for teams, we're going to provide you a lot of fun stuff. Live interactive. We'll be there. Take you pick by pick. Take you through all the picks. That's the plan anyway. Technology, withstanding, God willing, we're going to provide that for you. We'll try to answer questions, but obviously it's going to be more reacting of what's going on. And then may not have all the answers. Well, why did they take this guy? My initial reaction probably would be, well, because that's how they saw him. Later on, I'll probably once I have a chance to talk with them, get at least to feel what they were thinking and why they went in a certain direction, even though it may be a surprise to you. So we'll react to it, tell you about it, explain it, kind of get you understanding if there is a pick that I just didn't see the player the same way, I'll tell you. I'm not going to sit there and baby anybody. I'll tell you picks that just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me if I feel that that's way, but I'm also going to tell you things, don't react. And don't react to a lot of the talking heads and a lot of the lists that have guys ranked, even mine. That's why I do my board differently on Landry Football. It explains where their value is. So you're going to look at 5 and 24 and say, wow, mid to late first round value. Well, there's only 4 guys ranked above that. So you can't sit there and say that a guy that's ranked mid to late first round was taken too high at 5 or 6. The next best player. Okay, so understand that. We're going to get that to you. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Catch it by going to LandryFootball.com. Follow Chris on Twitch. Sign up for it. Subscribe to that so you'll have it. That's going to be the best way. For those of you that like to watch live on Facebook or YouTube, we'll stream it there as well. So we appreciate it. Let's get to a couple of other questions. What was your evaluation? Tony asked, what was my evaluation of Eric Turner and Phil Mcconkey? Well, Phil was a very, very quick athlete, not a lot of speed, but had great hands coming out of the Service Academy and was a really good player. I didn't have a particularly high grade on him. He didn't run very well. Eric Turner was an old school safety. Often think guys like Eric in today's game would play linebacker. That's how they played back then. They were a safety that was very head-hunting safety that was very physical across the middle, could defend the run well, good short area, cover quickness, could lock onto the tight end in that day. But as the game has changed, it's a lot different, right? I mean, the tight ends are more athletic. They're more built like receivers. So you've got to have guys that are more built like corners, that safeties that cover like corners, because you got to match up athletically with those guys. But had a really, really high grade on Eric, not so much on Phil. What was my evaluation of Julian Edelm out of Kent State and Sebastian Janikowski? Julian was a quarterback, option quarterback that had really good quickness, a projection, didn't have him graded as high as his pro career. He's graded him very well in the NFL. He was a better player than I thought. Always tough for projections. When you project a guy, and a projection is taking a guy from one position and moving him to another. That's a projection. We call that a P in the letter grading system that we attach to the numerical system. And that you take them later. I mean, you're not going to you don't take a guy. You don't do what Jacksonville did one year and took a guy and project him that was a quarterback and make him the receiver because he's an athlete. Just a dumb move. You don't ever do that. And then he had character issues to boot. Just a dumb move by them back in the day. I digress. Julius was a really good player, competitive, tough, and he's smart. And I thought he could do things potentially as a slot corner. I thought when working him out, I remember the workout at Kent, good hands, and you could see that there's a chance to be a pretty good slot receiver. To be as good as he was a surprise. Yeah. The Sebastian Janikowski question. Sebastian was a first-round grade on him, but I wouldn't have taken him in the first round, and that was the difference. Sebastian had the most explosive leg in modern times. We have a drill that we run at the combine, and it's the elevation drill. And it is simply this. We put the ball as close to the crossbar as possible. So it's the crossbar, okay? You get as close to it as possible. And we'll see how quickly the ball can elevate. Obviously, the ones that are the closest that can elevate it above that, he still holds the record of getting as much elevation as possible. The issue with Sebastian, he was a freewheeling guy, liked to drink his beer, and, okay, you don't have to be a great athlete to be a kicker, and he was naturally gifted. You wondered a little bit about it. Here's the problem with kickers. And even though you grade a guy on what he is, you hear me say that. Sebastian, I had a 6.5 grade on him. I would not have taken him in the first round as a kicker. The Raiders did. It wasn't a bad pick. They took Ray Guy, by the way, back in the day in the first round. Ray Guy was a great athlete at Southern Miss, great safety. Good safety, great punter. And so both, they did it and took Shane Leckler in the second, I believe. So they had success doing it with the Raiders. But the problem with taking kickers is that even though you've got an explosive leg, it doesn't mean that you're going to be poised under pressure and make clutch kicks. And you just got a lot of options. Kickers kick a long time. You can sign a guy. I'm just not taking a kicker that high. And there's the risk factor that's always there. I've told the story about one year I had, I didn't have first round grades, but I had 5.9 grades or maybe even 6.0 grades on Jason Elam and what was his Scott Sisson from Georgia Tech. Jason Elam was from Hawaii. Both of those guys had really good legs. Both of those guys were clutch performers. Jason kicked very well in Hawaii. Had a very clean, was 1.5 step across, very crisp. Get off time was very good. Ground to toe time was very good. Elevated the ball, good range. Obviously had his career mostly in Denver, thin air, but was really good. Very, very consistent. Scott Sisson kicked 4 years at Georgia Tech, never missed an extra point. He missed 2 field goals in 4 years, and both of them are over 50 yards. Elam had a great career. Scott Sisson went to the Patriots, and they nicknamed him Missin' Sisson. He was awful. Why? Kicking there's the best equation to compare evaluating kickers that I've ever found is like comparing them and evaluating them to golfers. You can be a great golfer, have a great swing, have great form, but you lose your confidence, you lose your feel, you get on the back nine, pressure of a moment, boom, it goes away. It just – and so the physical attributes, I mean, what can you do if you see them perform under pressure in college? You put them in pressure situations, you do a good job, you can evaluate the physical part. And if you get them into the NFL, they eventually may be able to work out their problems. Vinatieri was great. Clutch, leader, tough, mentally tough. I look for mental toughness. They're all going to go through cycles where they miss. The guys that can put it behind them, that's the ones I want. So it's a little bit of like evaluating them as golfers, and then also like you would a golfer, but also a little bit like corners mentally. You're going to get beat. How do you deal with it? You know, you start to miss a couple of kicks. The ability to quickly rectify it and say, give me that. I want it again. I want to win it. You know, some of the guys retreat. Oh, I can't figure it out. What's going on? So you got to have the mental toughness. So those are tough deals. But Seabass had a tremendous leg. Robert Aguayo was a huge mistake. Was a huge, huge, huge mistake. So we'll see where that Robert Aguayo was not a good worker, and you think, oh, that's a kicker, you don't have to work hard. No, you just, so that was a huge mistake, and I was really against that. Fantasy football 101 could number 9, Rashad Bateman. Oh, fantasy football's kind of cheating, giving away my draft board here on the website. He's obviously a member. We appreciate that. We hope all of you join it. Here's the thing, fantasy. There's going to be a run on the receivers pretty early. I think certainly by, certainly 10, 12, the top 3 are off the board. What that is going to do is going to take guys like Kadarius Toney, Elijah Moore, Terrence Marshall. That's going to elevate them up from really high second-round value. They're going to go in the first. Because teams needing a receiver, once you clear off some people may have them ranked bottom of the first. They may see them a little bit better. And then B, when your first rate grades are done, you're picking high second round anyway. They fit right in that mix. But because the top guys are gone and there's a little bit of a gap, you're going to see those guys get elevated. After that, those 3 are gone. I think the next 4 are going to be elevated. And that is Bateman. That's Amari Rogers. That's Tutu Atwell, Chatarius Atwell of Louisville. And that's Rondell Moore of Purdue, who's more of a specialist slot guy. Those late second-round value guys are going to go up as well. They're going to kind of dovetail what, So I think Bateman is high second-round value. The reason I don't see him going into the first is not that I don't think he can play. I think he can. Not that there's a whole lot of difference than say, all right, take him at 30 versus 42. There's not a lot. And I don't mean that he's not worthy of it. But understanding the draft board, that means you're leaving some really good players on the board. Go back and you look at the receiver board. That's fine. Go back and look at the horizontal board, fantasy, and think about this. So in the first round, now I know you're saying sneak in. So let's just say 32, 31, 30, wherever. Go and look at the board. Who you leaving on the board to take Bateman? You're leaving, in my opinion, better players. Maybe not a player that fits the biggest position in need, but who's still on the board? The rushers are off. Ojulari's off. Collins, a great player, is probably off. Rousseau's off. Jason Owa, Penn State's off. How about a tackle like Darashaw? Is he still on the board and you taking Bateman? No, I don't think you're doing that. How about J.C. Horn at corner? You're not leaving him on the board to take him. Better player. How about Trevor Moore, safety from TCU? Guy I like a lot. I'm not leaving him on the board to take Bateman. I'm not leaving a 6'5" player on the board or even a high 6'4" graded player to take Bateman. So, no, I wouldn't do it. You asked, do you think he could sneak in? Yeah. Somebody could grade him a little higher. On their scale, they could have them graded as a 6.5. So that doesn't make them wrong. I just see them a little differently. The high second round. Now, look, I got no problem. Look, Kwity Paye, I think, is going in the first round. That's a 6.4 grade. Tevin Jenkins, Oklahoma State tackle, I think going in the first round. Christian Barmore. I think those are guys that are going to go in the first round with high second round value. Those are better players in my mind. I think you're going to look. I mean, I think you got. As I look at it, I have 24 6.4 graded players. Now 6.4 to 6.0, you can go to a 6.0 if you want to over a 6.4. Still think the 6.4s, even though they're the same grade tier, there's a little bit of a separation there. But you're leaving in the first round a lot of potential players with higher grades. Now, if all the 6.5s are off the board and you do it, I'm more okay with it then. But you got some really good players still on the board at that point. I mean, what if Kadarius Toney's still on the board there? I don't think he will be. And you're talking like I am, is those receivers are all off the board. Those top 6 are off the board. So, yeah, you could see it. I do think, even though I like Moore a little higher, you got to have an appetite for Rondale Moore. I mean, he's a slot. He's a returner. He's a specialist. Atwell's, I think, a slot. Bateman is an X. I got Amari Rogers with the same grade. So I don't know. I mean, if I'm in my mind, I'm not taking him there because I think you can get reasonable value with another receiver a little bit later. And it's not that I don't like the player. I like him. I think Rashad Bateman is a make-it player, but I just think you're leaving better players on the board. I can love the player, but not like the pick because I maybe like somebody better. So that's my answer there. Rich Coach says, did I get a chance to watch the Masters over the weekend? I sure did. I kept my eye on it most of the weekend as I was doing work, but I usually do. Really enjoy it. So as we get into, as we wrap up today, we appreciate your questions. I'm going to be back for the Landry Football Podcast tomorrow. We'll do something probably draft related. I've got 2 questions I didn't even get to, but I've got questions about running the shotgun and goal line situation. And I got a question from Anthony about college hiring assistants worked with previously. So we're going to get to that tomorrow, as well as more draft stuff, as well as more of your questions on the Landry Football Podcast. So same time, same channel tomorrow, more football with us here. And then, of course, SEC football and beyond on Friday. A reminder again, starting next Monday, we're going to, on 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have this show, draft version, all next week, Monday through Friday, and all the week of the draft, Monday through Friday. And draft night, Thursday, draft night, Friday, and draft day, Saturday. I'm going to take you solo right here. You on Twitch TV, on YouTube, Facebook. You check it out. You're not listening to this live. You're listening to us on the podcast. Get us live. Go to follow Chris on Twitch and click on that. Sign up. Easy, free. Subscribe to it. You'll be able to watch this show live. And you don't have to do it on a computer. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your iPad. Most of you now have smart TVs. I was fooling with this the other night. Go to your smart TV. Go to internet. Go to Twitch. Go to Chris Landry Football on Twitch. Boom, you can watch it on your TV. So you don't have to sit there and you can watch it on your smart TV. We'll be there. I'm going to take you through all the picks. I'm going to take you behind the scenes, kind of bring you in to what I can, at least, of what's going on behind the scenes, at least what I'm dealing with teams. And then may not be able to share all the confidential stuff, but give you information, maybe picks before they happen. Thanks for the idea, and we really appreciate it. It's something I thought about, but quite frankly, my mind has been so focused on getting to the draft and getting the work done. I just, I never really thought as much about, draft weight, is that possible? First thing I thought of when fantasy brought it up, like, I can't do that. I got to do this and that. And I'm like, wait a minute, why couldn't I do this? Why couldn't I do that? Made a couple of calls and kind of cleared it and said, yeah, we could do that. And it's all made possible, I think, due to modern technology. So we've got a forum for you to come and enjoy the draft in a different way than you ever have before. So make sure that you check that out with us. So spread the word. Help me on social media, any other means to check it out. Heck, it's free. Go check it out. Be a part of it. And we're going to have a lot of fun together here the next couple of weeks. Also, if you haven't done so, please spread the word and become involved with the LandryFootball.com. Membership's very inexpensive. You can take advantage for the year, and it's even less than $10 a month. And it's less than $10 a month if you do it by month. It's even less than that. It's half that. It's $9.99, but it's less than that if you take advantage of the year membership. Yes, it's the draft time now, but during the season, we break down the games and grade the players. We grade the free agent process. We're going to give you the inside the draft room look for each and every team. So we appreciate you joining us, and we'd really appreciate you spreading the word on that. That'll do it for today. Talk to you tomorrow on the Landry Football Podcast, and also keep it up to date at Landry Football on Twitter. Follow me there if you haven't done so. Landry Football on Facebook, the Landry Football YouTube channel, and then most importantly, follow Chris on Twitch, twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football. So join us on all those platforms. Appreciate you. Have a great day, everybody. Get to some meetings here now. Take care.